Welcome back. This is Professor Ridge, and for this lesson, section 1.4, we'll be covering problem solving, which is basically word problems. So our first objective, we'll cover the 5-step strategy. Now this is basically just an outline for you to solve problems. You don't necessarily have to follow these 5 steps in order every single time, but it's a good strategy for solving problems. So your first step is to familiarize yourself with the problem. The next, translate to mathematical language. After you do that, and this is actually the hardest step right here, is translating. Once you've translated, then you're going to solve your problem and then check your answer and then state your answer clearly. Okay, now with familiarize your problem, yourself with the problem, you're going to do things like you're going to read, okay, obviously you'll read the problem and generally reread it. So usually I do that several times. So once I read it, I just read it real quick, try to get an idea of what's going on. The second read, then I'm going to start organizing the information. And the way I do that is usually with charts, tables, picture, charts, tables, pictures. I also assign variables. And the big thing is this is what I always say, is write stuff down. Oh yeah, think about formulas that pertain to the problem. Okay, so basically the more work you do here, getting familiar with the problem, the easier it'll be to translate. All right, so I've prepared a few problems for us to do. So find 3 consecutive odd integers such that the sum of twice the first, 5 less than the second, and 3 times the third is 75. So again, I just read it once. I'm not trying to solve it. So now I'm going to go back and try to organize all my information. In this case, I'm just going to start assigning some variables. So the keyword here is 3 consecutive odd integers. So I'm going to let x be my first odd integer. Now consecutive would be like consecutive odd integers, so they're right next to each other. So consecutive integers would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on. That'd be consecutive. Consecutive odd, well, let's do even first. That'd be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so on. And consecutive odd would be 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, so on. So if the first one's x, so let's just imagine that the first one's x. If this was x, what would this next one here be, the second one? Okay, so how far apart is that? So from 3 to 5 is 2 units apart, so it would be x plus 2. And then to the next one would be x plus 2 plus another 2, so that would be x plus 4. Okay. So now that we've established the variables, let's translate this. So we're going to take the sum, which we're going to add. So we're going to do twice the first. So twice the first would be 2x plus 5 less than the second. So the second is x plus 2. 5 less than that. So that's 5 less than the second. And then 3 times the third. So the third's x plus 4. I'm going to do 3 times the third. And the sum of all 3 of those is, that's equals 75. So there's your equation. So we've translated it to mathematical language. So our next step is we're going to work it out. So solve this equation. So we're going to start by simplifying the sides. So distribute that positive 3, so it'll be 3 times x. 3 times 4 is 12. Combine like terms, 2x plus 3x, 6x. 2 minus 5 plus 12 is 9. We want to get the x by itself, so subtract 9, 66, divided by 6, x equals 11. Okay, so that's the first one's 11. So if the first one's 11, then the second one must be, well, they're consecutive odds, so we'll know it's 13, but if we forgot, 11 plus 2 is 13. And then 11 plus 4 is 15. And you can see they're 2 apart, 11, 13, 15. And let's just double check the math here. So if we did twice the first, 5 less than the second, so the second, so that's 8, and 3 times the third. If you add those all up, see, that's 10, 15, 75, which is what we expected. Okay, so now we can answer the question. So the 3 consecutive odd integers are 11, 13, and 15. Okay, so there you go. All right. Next one. So I have a piece of wire, 72 centimeters long. It's cut into 2 pieces, each to be bent to make a square. The length of a side, okay, let me read that again. The length of a side of one square is to be 2 centimeters shorter than the length of the other. How should the wire be cut? Okay, so let's organize the information. So again, I read it once. I'm going to read through it. I know I have these 2 squares, so I'm going to draw a picture of 2 squares. And I start thinking about, okay, what do I know about squares? I know they have 4 sides. I know all the sides are equal. So if I let this be x, all 4 sides are going to be x. The length of one side of the square is to be 2 centimeters shorter than the length of the other. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to make the bigger one x. So this one's going to be 2 centimeters shorter than that one. So this is minus 2. So now what else do I know? I have this one piece of wire, 72 centimeters long. I'm going to cut it into two pieces, and I'm going to bend the wire to make the smaller square, bend the wire to make the bigger square. So what I know about that, so this is basically going to be the perimeter of both of these things. So if I take up all of these pieces, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4x, minus 2, minus 2, minus 2, minus 2 is minus 8, plus 4x. If I add that all up, that will be the single piece of wire that's 72. So there you go. So that's translating it. And I'm going to solve this. So I got 8x minus 8, 72. Add 8 to both sides. Divide by 8. Remember, golden rule, what you do to one side, you do the other. So x is 10. So how should the wire be cut? Well, let's just check this real quick. So if that's 10, that's going to give me 40. So if x is 10, x minus 2 would be 8. So that would give me 32. So that would be 72 inches. So that checks out. So now I can answer the question, how should the wire be cut? So the wire should be cut at 40. So one piece is 40 for these centimeters, and the other is 32 centimeters. Okay, so let's try the next one. One angle of a triangle has the same measure as the second angle. The third angle measures 10 degrees more than 3 times the measure of the first angle. Find the measure of the angles. Okay, so again, I'd read it once. Now I'm going to try to organize the information. I got a triangle, so usually I draw a picture of a triangle. We call this angle A, B, C. So one angle of a triangle has the same as the second. So if we call this X, then that one would be the same. The third is 10 more than 3 times the measure of the first. Third is 10 more than 3 times the first. So the first is X, 3 times the first plus 10. Okay, and that's all we get. That's all the information. So here I got to think about, well, what other things do I know about a triangle? And we're talking about angles. And then the first thing that should pop in your head is, oh, we know that the sum of all the interior angles of a triangle what do we know about that? So it doesn't matter what kind of triangle it is. If you add up all the interior angles, it will always be in 180 degrees. Okay, so knowing this fact and then using my variables for the 3 angles, substitute them in, and there's my translation, and now I'm going to solve that problem. So I got x plus 3x is 5x. Subtract 10 from both sides. And then divide both sides by 5. So x is 170 divided by 5 is 34 degrees. Okay, now let's check. So if the first angle is 34 degrees, second angle is 34 degrees, and this one's going to be 3 times 34 plus 10, which is, let's see, 90, 102 plus 10 is 122. And then for a check, add up all three of these. So let's see, 34 plus 34, 68 plus 122 is 190. So what did I do wrong? Let's double check it. 34 plus 34 plus. Okay, so obviously I made a mistake, so that's good. You can see what do I do when I make a mistake. So let's go back. It's 5x. Subtract 10. Okay, and it's real easy. So right here, 102 plus 10 is 112. So you can see why it's, again, I'm going to leave this in here without re-recording it. It's good to see that why you check. You can check and you can find silly mistakes like that. So the three angles are 34, 34, and 112. And if I double check 34 plus 34 plus 112, that gets 180. So good, that checks out. So the three angles are 34 degrees, 34 degrees, and 112 degrees. Finally, our last problem for this lesson. Okay, so a faculty book discount at a bookstore is 15%. If a sweatshirt after the discount was $32.30, what was the original price of sweatshirt? Now, a lot of people think they're familiar with this problem, and they actually get it wrong because you don't write down the formula for it. So typically, most people would say, all right, 15% of $32.30, you multiply $32.30 times 15%, and you get $4.84, 4.845, and then you subtract that from $32.30 and say, okay, the original price was 27. Oh no, you would add it, right? And anyway, you would add it and you would get the wrong answer actually, because it's not 15% of this, it's 15% of the original price. So what you got to do is say, okay, x equals the original price. And then your discount is 15% of the original, 15% of the original price. That's your discount. So let's say the original price was $100. 15% off $100 would be $15 off. So if your original price was $100 and your discount is 15% of $100, that'll give you a $15 discount. So what do you do with that to figure out the sales price? You're going to take the original price minus your discount, and that's going to be equal to your sales price. So this is the formula we need to use. So if it was $100 originally, $15 off, the sales price would be $85. So for this problem, the original price we don't know, so that's going to get me X minus the discount, it's 15% of whatever X is. And then that's going to be equal to my sales price, which in this case, the sales price was $32.30. So this is the equation we would use to solve it. And what you do here, now a lot of people get confused. These are like terms, and the coefficient here is 1. So you're doing 1 minus 0.15 x. So I'm going to write that down just so you can see it. I usually get a lot of questions in the class about that one if I don't write that down. Okay, so 1 minus 0.15 is 0.85 x. And then, of course, to get x by itself, you're going to divide both sides by 0.85. So x is, let me take our calculator, 32.30 divided by 0.85, and the original price was $38. Okay, now let's check it. So if you had $38 times 15% for discount, that's the discount rate, so this would be your discount. So it's $5.70. And then I'm going to take the original amount, 38, minus my discount. And get the sales price $32.30, which checks out. Okay, so what was the original price? The original price of the sweatshirt before the discount was $38. Okay, so there's the 5 steps of problem solving. Okay, now go to My Math Lab and do the exercises there for you.